First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll lead it, if you will. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
justice prosper.
Thank you. Sheila, if we could have roll call.
Okay, so Miss Bernard,
Here.
Mr. Furman.
Present in Troy, Michigan.
Oh, that's right. Miss Bernard, you want to state your
Yeah,
location?
I'm in Oakland County, Michigan.
Okay. Dr. Guadalupe,
Here in Oakland Township, Michigan.
Dr. Hans,
Here in Bloomfield Township, Michigan.
Miss Namie Dyer, Dr. Taub, Mr. Lindemere,
Here, Marco Island, Florida.
Miss Newman,
Here, Pontiac, Michigan.
Miss Root,
Here in Rochester Hills.
Mr. Torres,
Here in Waterford Township.
Miss Summers,
Here in Royal Oak.
Mr. Landsman. Mr. Landsman, you must be on mute.
Here in West Bloomfield, Michigan. Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of the board meeting agenda. Is there a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, is there a motion to approve the board agenda?
This is Eric. Move to
Dr.
approve.
Guadalupe,
So I've heard from Eric for a motion and a second by Sarah. Is that correct?
yes.
All right. Is there any discussion on it? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the public comment.
We do not have any public comment this evening. I do want to remind people that we have 2 opportunities for people to submit public comment this evening. The second will be at the end of the meeting. Also that you can add your public comment to the chat, or you can use our online link.
Thank you, Christine. All right. Next up on the agenda is service recognition. This is for our outgoing chair and longtime board member, Judith Summers. Boy, I haven't called you Judith except for the first day I met you. So before I turn over the reins to you and Dana, I just want to take a minute and say thank you. You've been a board member since 1993 through 2021, 18 years, 28 years serving on this board. You know, they always say thank you for your service, but seriously, 28 years is a really long time. I joined 9 years ago, and I remember what it was like. I remember you specifically because of the guidance, the insights, the mentoring you provided me. I remember meeting Jen, blessed memory. And what I've always remembered about you is that you are always an advocate for those that can't and for those that can. You're amazing in terms of what you remember, in terms of what has worked, what hasn't. But most of all, you've always focused on the advocacy and the possibilities, the vision of what we could do, not just what have we always done. So you and others like Bob and John and Al and even Sid have all carried me under their wings, but you most of all, because you've always reminded me, and you continue to do that even most recently, to be a visionary, to think with both my head and my heart, and to remember why we are here, to be advocates. So thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Dana, did you have something?
Dana, you might be muted.
That what happened. Can you all hear me now? Okay, I'm so sorry, but we want to thank you so much.
The sound isn't, Dana, the sound isn't very good.
Oh, let me take one. Hear me now?
Not any better.
You know what? I don't think it's Dana's microphone. We're going to ask that everybody mute themselves. I think there are a number of mics that are unmuted right now, so it might be interfering with the sound.
Okay, I'm testing again. How is that? A little
Much
better?
better. Much better.
Okay. Sorry, Judy. I am so sorry, but we want to thank you so much for your years of dedication and commitment as both a chair and a member of the OCHN Board of Directors. While I haven't had the privilege of working with you for a long time, it's been a very short time in my mind, it is evident the critical part and role you play in this organization by supporting people we serve and individuals in the community. Your insight and wisdom to this board, like Jonathan said, has been amazing, especially for me in the last 6 months. And as a community leader, I know your light will continue to shine because you serve an example for all of us to follow. And I wish you the very best in your journey. I can't see you retiring as an advocate, as a lifelong person who serves the community and who serves and connects with people, and the importance of advocating for families and the people we love. So please accept our small token, virtually, of course, and with tremendous gratitude. It has truly been a great benefit for me to have worked with you in the last 6 months, and I'm sure the rest of this team for much longer. So again, we wish you the best of luck, and we know this is not goodbye. This is see you soon, because I'm sure there are other great things out there for you to do. And again, from one mom advocate to another, I truly appreciate everything that you've done for me and for this organization. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dana and Jonathan. I do have some remarks, if you'll indulge me some time. This is after 28 years. You can imagine that I've been doing some reflecting and trying to figure out exactly how I came to be here tonight and how my unexpected journey in advocacy led me to this moment. Ironically, it began on my birthday in 1975, which was also the day our terrific daughter Jennifer was born, and the day Bob and I learned that Jen would not be living a typical life, and the day Bob and I learned that we would move heaven and earth to make sure that Jen had every opportunity to be all she was meant to be. After we got our bearings as a family, I started to get to know the people, laws, and systems that would impact Jen's life, and to do all I could to understand the lay of the land for people with disabilities. So I became actively involved in local, state, national organizations, you know how I am, that were dedicated to supporting people with disabilities. From there, I made some valuable connections that gave me the opportunity to be a part of initiatives that were important to people with developmental disabilities, including advocating for Michigan to access Medicaid funding for people, the passage of the Family Support Subsidy Act, involvement with a coalition of statewide advocates in the Department of Community Health at the time, to explore language that would become the Medicaid 1915 B and C waiver, and similarly to work on the development of the concept of a PIHP. My personal favorite, however, was the 25 years I spent as a trained volunteer visiting people living in specific group homes in Oakland County. I visited each month, and it was to make sure that the people felt like they were living a life of dignity and quality, and to advocate for change if change was needed. Along the way, I had a chance to meet many visionary advocates and people with lived experience who taught me the true meaning of nothing about me without me, person-centered planning, and self-determination. They also all had a steadfast belief in the absolute right of all people to be fully included in their schools and communities, even if they needed accommodations to make that happen. Using that as inspiration, we exercised Jen's right to due process under special ed law to fight for her chance to attend high school as a typical student with appropriate supports rather than continuing in a separate school setting. Making that change was a turning point for her. She became just another kid in a regular school. She felt great about herself and her life in general. In 2001, when Jen transitioned from special ed to the public mental health system, she lived a self-directed life from day one, even though that was not the norm at the time. It wasn't an easy road, but with wonderful support, Jen lived a life that was fulfilling to her, with many friends and community connections. She had her own business using her great eye for color and was the employer of record for her personal assistants. I came to this board as Jen's mom, believing that there was value in sharing my experience and that of others to show that the power of informed advocacy based on lived experience can and will bring positive change to people's lives. And that valuable input will also keep an organization more aware and responsive to the needs in the community. Since my first board appointment in 1993, which seems like a million years ago, there have certainly been quite a number of challenging times. But with the dedication of many good people, both board and staff members, past and present, who in spite of multiple organizational changes, and more recently with COVID, did their best to maintain stability in the delivery of supports and services for those we value and serve, so our people could still feel hopeful and empowered to live their best lives. I appreciate that commitment and leadership in the face of significant obstacles, and I sincerely thank you all for keeping this organization and network moving forward. I also want to thank the people with lived experience that I had the pleasure to meet and get to know over the years. I want you to know how much I valued the time that we spent together, hearing your joys, successes, and struggles. I am touched by the trust you placed in me to keep your confidence as well, also letting me bring your thoughts, concerns, and aspirations to the board table. Your trust is truly a priceless gift to me, and I am grateful to all of you who stuck with me through the years and continued to teach me so many valuable and meaningful lessons. Now, for some unsolicited advice to my colleagues on the board. I'm pretty sure you would be disappointed if I didn't kind of slip that in. From where I sit, the most insightful people in the room are the people with lived experience. So take every opportunity to create ways to listen to those voices. Then take what you hear and make that knowledge the wisdom you use when you make the important decisions that will impact so many lives. And when you do, I believe you will do your best work. In closing, I am grateful to have had the opportunity to serve on this board. I have learned so much, worked with amazing people, and as a bonus, made some lasting friendships. So I thank you all for spending your time with me, and I wish you Godspeed as the future unfolds. Thank you.
Judy, thank you so much for those words of wisdom. And I will take those to heart. I hope the other board members do as well. So.
Thank you.
I think you're muted, Jonathan.
Yeah, thank you. So from one story that inspires to another story that inspires. So tonight we have Derek Derico?
Dorico.
Thank
Yep.
you. And the folks from New Horizon to share what they do, but just most importantly, what his life is like. So please, if you guys will, I turn the floor over to you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Hatfield. I am the president and CEO of New Horizons. And again, I'm very pleased tonight. We have two guests. I have Dorico is on tonight to talk about his experience with employment with our agency. And I'm also have Kim Petralka, who is our vice president. I was, sincerely told to keep the comments brief, so I will absolutely do that. On a quick side note, I would like to thank the OCHN leadership team, and I would also like to thank the OCHN board for cost settlement and working with providers. You've been able to keep us very stable, and I think it shows a lot about how much you care about your provider network. So I'd be remiss to not thank you, and I just wanted to get that in. If you can move to the second slide. We obviously have a mission statement, person vision. I'm not going to review all of that with you guys. We can get this information over to you. I will say very quickly from a mission statement, it is investing in our communities by providing employment opportunities for individuals facing barriers to employment. So we're an employment first agency, and that is our, how we're aligning for our future. And this is also reviewed with our employees, new employees when we're brought in. If you want to go to the next slide quickly. We were incorporated in 1964. Obviously, you guys understand the history of the mental health system, but in that era and day, there just was no services. So when individuals came out of the school systems and settings, there were no more programs to go for. So we've been in business for 57 years. I'm very proud of that. It's easy for me to remember because I was born in 1964, so I just gave my age away, but a very compassionate board and our individuals, our founding board members. If you slip to the next slide, I'd like to present Dorico. He's going to give a little update on kind of what he's working on and how we've provided services for him. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dorico.
Hi, my name is Dorico McLeod, and I am a former employee of New Horizons. I started at New Horizons in 2014, where I started working in the workshop program, learning developmental skills and rehabilitational skills to work in the community. And thanks to New Horizons, I had been able to find employment. They first started working me as a houseman cleaner at Selfridge Air National Guard Base. And then they employed me with the DTE and the Palace of Auburn Hills. And I can truly say that working with New Horizons has been an amazing experience. From being at New Horizons to finally having my current job working at the hotel, they are a true testament of what it means having community help and people that support you and want to see you do your very best. So working with New Horizons, it's like an amazing experience because they have taught me that it is possible and, able for me to be able to find a decent job and work in the community despite my mental limitations. And I want to thank New Horizons so much for always being there and having my back and supporting me every step of the way, because they truly are a blessing to me and so many other people that they serve every single day. So if you know anyone that needs help or any type of services, I would strongly recommend that you take them to New Horizons. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorico, for those kind words.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dorico.
A few more slides, and again, I'll continue to keep it brief. We used your format, but obviously my admin staff are my directors that are listed to the left, and our board members here on the right. So again, just a listing of our internal directors and then our board members. If you can switch to the next slide. We have a one-page document of how we measure up. Again, we can get this information over to you. I'm not going to go over all of it, but we use it as a snapshot to hand out to parents, intake, so they get a little bit idea of who we are. It's clean, it's simple, it's some metrics that we use internally. And one of the numbers, we provide services for about 2,725 people. I think this year that'll probably be cut in half just due to the ongoing pandemic. And we employed over 465 individuals last year. So we're very proud of that. If you click to the next slide. Current statistics, I'm not going to go over all of them, but our individual supported employment program has increased by 25%. Kim's going to go over some of the services that we have. Our virtual service is now used by 20% of persons served. I think that's pretty innovative. Our community utilization rate is up by 27%, and this year we've gotten 12 competitive placements so far this year. If you can switch to the next statistic. I'm going to hand this over to Kim Petralka. She, again, is my vice president. She is the architect for a lot of the services and has gotten very, I think, innovative during these times and helped me to launch the virtual platform. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Kim. And again, thank you again for allowing us to present to you guys.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Good evening. I just wanted to give you an overview on some of our services. New Horizons, we do provide customizable skill building, job training, and job placement services to individuals facing barriers to employment with the ultimate outcome of competitive integrated employment. We are dedicated to expanding the opportunities that would enrich the lives of persons with disabilities, and we provide an array of comprehensive services to assist and support an individual through their career development process. Over the next couple slides, I will highlight a few of our many services. Our services are offered on an individualized basis and are specific to the individual's needs. Our highly trained staff will assist and support each individual through their career discovery journey. And many of our individuals will start at the beginning with skill building. Our staff will help lay the foundations for the individuals to build up their employment skills, their independence, and their confidence. One of our services offered here is job placement. And finding a job and keeping a job is not always an easy thing to do, especially if someone has a barrier to employment. Our employment specialist works with the job seeker to explore their vocational interests and community opportunities, to review and update their resume, assist with applications, develop and practice interviewing skills, and maintain communication with employers. Next slide, please. The next service I'd like to highlight is our individual supported employment. This service brings together employers and qualified workers with disabilities. For employers, it's a way to tap into the productive potential of individuals with different abilities. They are hired by the employer and have the support of a job coach. The objective is to elevate the individual's independence, work skills, and habits, and then eventually fade back job coaching services. Next slide. Community inclusion, or in other words, the opportunity to live like everyone else and be valued for one's uniqueness and abilities. But community inclusion can lead to employment. New Horizons supports the individual in his or her community, and based on the individual's choices, their goals, and their dreams, our staff, together with the individual, explore the world around them. Each individual should be recognized for their strengths, contributions, and having the opportunity to learn. A great example of community inclusion is one of our individuals and his passion for volunteering with Meals on Wheels. He absolutely loves giving back to the community, and he takes great pride and delivers each meal with a smile. A local florist noticed his enthusiasm and dedication and decided to partner with him to provide flowers. So now every time he makes a delivery to the residents, he provides a flower and a quick note to brighten their day. So community inclusion provides so much, from improving one's self-esteem, providing access to resources and activities, to expanding one's horizons and life experiences. Community inclusion gives our individuals that feeling of excitement of being a part of something, being a part of their community. Next slide. And last but not least, I wanted to touch on our virtual services. As news of the coronavirus was spreading back about a year ago, and our locations were abruptly closed per the governor's orders, New Horizons quickly switched gears, and our staff created a new virtual service program to offer to our individuals served to continue their learning and skill building. So this virtual services was a great way to stay connected and continue on improving one's skills, especially during COVID. And just to name a few, we offer classes such as Social Security 101, job searching classes, money management, we have communication and soft skills, good health and fitness, safety, and so many more. The individuals do join via Microsoft Teams or Zoom, and enjoy not only the content, but seeing their peers and staff that they've missed during COVID. And we have received nothing but positive feedback from the parents, from the individuals, the guardians. So it's really been a win-win situation implementing this new service. So,
Kim, did you want to talk about the Avail app real quick too? And
yeah, so we just started something new with Avail. It's an app that actually will help the individuals and support them on a job. It's in essence a virtual job coach. So you'll still have a job coach, but it's an app that actually gives the individual like task lists, cheat sheets, pictures, videos, all sorts of different things to again increase their independence and success on the job. So we're starting that. We're actually partnering with MSU to do a research project to see if this is something that could be possible for all residents here in Michigan as an opportunity to learn and expand and grow within their employment. So we're very excited. And thank you. This concludes our presentation. On behalf of Tim, Dorico, and myself, I would like to thank everyone for allowing us to present this evening. So I'm not sure if anyone has any questions, but.
And I would put a shout out if you go to some of our social media, we share success stories almost weekly of persons served and how they're doing in the community. I always think it's just a great way to see what Kim is working on and what we're doing to help persons served. But again, on behalf of myself, and my board chair and vice chair, thank you guys. We appreciate this opportunity.
Tim, Kimberly, thank you. Dorico, thank you so much for sharing your story and
Thank
where
you,
you've
guys.
been and where you're going. So we really appreciate it. I see a hand up from the board. Eric, you have a question or comment?
It's working.
Yes, I had heard a presentation today that talked about there was substantial unemployment now because of COVID for persons with disabilities. And they talked about like an unemployment rate, something like 85%. And I just wondered what your thoughts were on that, if that, how has COVID affected, the work life of the people that you serve? And then like, what is there something that we should be looking for once we come out of COVID? If those numbers are true, it's just devastating to the community.
Eric, that's a great question. I think that the unemployment rates for persons served have always been, I think, extraordinarily high and too high, actually. I'm not comfortable with that. The pandemic obviously has impacted our ability because a lot of businesses have been shut down. But we've had a lot of success in still working with our community partners. We have a strong business advisory committee, and I'm anticipating that there's some pent-up demand with employers. So I'm hoping, as parts of our economy and segment open back up, that will provide additional opportunities for our people to get employed. And then I would say, as a board or OCHN is the advocacy effort to advocate for persons served. We have a really good workforce. I think we can benefit a lot of employers by connecting them with the right type of employee. And, and that's literally what Kim does every day. Again, it's a general answer to your question, but of course the pandemic has been a big impact. So I'm hoping that, as we navigate through this, there'll be some significant opportunities on the end of this pandemic.
Yeah, I think that when you raise the idea of advocacy I think that we'd have a special role, that we do have to advocate for the employment of people that have been affected the most through unemployment because of COVID. And obviously there are many groups that have been more affected than others. And this is a good opportunity for us to remind people of who has been the most negatively affected by COVID. And I'm going to guess that, persons with disabilities, people are going to it's going to be like a hidden thing that people are not going to realize, and often don't realize who's been the most negatively affected during the pandemic. And so I was interested. I couldn't believe it when I heard the numbers this morning. that I had heard. So I appreciate it's kind of timely that you guys were presenting today.
And again, thank you. It's like I said, it's a big impact, and I'm very confident. We have a very strong partner in OCHN. You guys have worked very diligently with us to help us move and help individuals get into the community. So, one thing I'm very proud about and being contractual basis with OCHN is just their commitment toward our needs. So, again, it's a great, I think you're one of the best PIHPs in the area, and I'm very pleased with our relationship, and we'll continue to push as hard as we can to get as many people employed as possible.
All right. Thank you very much for your kind words about us. Thank you all for the work that you do in services, supports, and helping the others, all of our folks that we serve in the field. So thank you. Before I move on to the next topic, which is the acceptance of meeting minutes, I wanted to check to see if there's any additional board members that have checked into the board meeting.
Yeah, this is Steve. I'm finally in.
Thank you. And you're in at, it looks like you're in Bloomfield Township.
I'm in Bloomfield Township. Thanks.
Thank you. I recognize the built-ins.
I can't remember where I live anymore.
Up the block.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Are there any other board members we missed in the roll call? All right.
Nope, I think you're good. I think you're good. Miss Namie Dyer notified me she wouldn't be in attendance.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is Dr. Posios. I'm new to the board meeting. I'm the incoming chief medical officer for OCHN. So glad to be here, and thanks for having me. Look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Posio. I was waiting to hear how you pronounced your name. Thank you. All right.
Perfect.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is the meeting minutes reports, and I'm looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes for SUD, Committee of the Whole, Citizens Advisory, and Recipient Rights.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Adam. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes reports, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion to accept carries. On to the regular agenda. Is there a motion to, we did the approval of the regular agenda already. But I'll ask again, are there any additions, subtractions, or changes to the agenda? Okay, so we'll move into item 3A. So this has been an interesting evening. We've had a number of different messages or stories that inspire, from Jericho to our own, to Judy, but also now tonight we've got another one regarding COVID-19 and with LaRon Coleman. So you guys want to take this topic?
Yep, you know what? I will start. I just wanted to share that there are an array of very strong emotions, I think, that all of us involved with the clinics feel every time we host one of these events. I don't think any is as powerful as when we are reunited with people we literally have not seen in over a year. And that includes the people we serve, our community partners, our provider network. And this was very true when we realized it was LaRon coming across the lobby, because of course everybody is masked. And so we started calling his name, and we're very excited to celebrate that moment with him, knowing he was going to be vaccinated. And then later in that evening, Emily had shared with me that picture that he put on his Facebook, advocating for people to follow in his footsteps, which is what inspired us to ask him to share his experience and really help join in the voices that are educating people about the value in being vaccinated and encouraging those who have the opportunity to be vaccinated. And so with that, I am going to turn it over to Laurent.
Good evening. How is everyone? I hope everyone is doing well. Please forgive me. I'm outside at the place of worship where I'm at. We're in choir rehearsal, but I came out to at least say a few words. Being one that lives in the neighborhood and the community I live in, we have seen a lot of people lose their lives to COVID. Some even personal friends and family members who have lost their lives to COVID. We're looking forward to getting life back on track and also being able to open up a lot of the different things that have closed, the different services. I'm grateful that through it all, OCHN and their partners have not closed their doors. Being one that worked at one of the providers of Turning Point Recovery Centers, we couldn't close our doors either. Substance use disorders continue on, whether there's COVID or not, and mental health as well. Being one to have the opportunity to walk into the lobby and to receive the vaccination, I truly feel blessed to be a part of that process. Looking forward to others following in that in my footsteps and doing that as I followed in others who I've seen be vaccinated in the medical field that I know. They had their first vaccination and then their second one. We are looking forward to life returning back to a level of normalcy as soon as possible. Hopefully being one to promote the vaccination to others in the community, that they can get over the fear of taking it. And as more people are starting to take it and be all right with it, more are coming. I do believe that the word is spreading, the message is spreading in our communities, and people are starting to overcome their fear. They're starting to come out and get vaccinated, and we're slowly going back to, I guess, at least a more normal level of living than we once had. As you were sharing about the people who are unemployed, I think about also the people who are gone. And to be one of the blessed and fortunate ones to be here today, to even receive this vaccination, and to continue on. I do that on behalf of those who have lost their lives. I do that on behalf of those who are fearful in our community and are looking for a way to return back to a level of normalcy in our communities. And I do that for Oakland County, where I stay. Hopefully there'll be those who see me and see me on my social media posts, posting positive things about life in the community, and hopefully encouraging others to want to go out there and get vaccinated. I really enjoy the vaccination process. We went out there. We were cordially greeted. They had open arms. We came in. People went through the process of all the different checks they had to put in place. We had our temperatures took in, our questions answered. We had a questionnaire we had to answer. We had to go through those processes. They had the doctor come in and talk to each and every one of us. And then the nurses on staff, I thank them as well. They came around and administered the vaccinations. And in a couple of days, I'll be going back, which is the 20th, and getting my second dose. So I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm hopeful that we all together we can get past this pandemic. You know, I pray for it, and I'm at like I said at my place of worship today to sing about it. So I'm grateful for you giving me this opportunity to talk to each and every one of you and to share. And at this time, I like to say thank you so much and God bless. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for your comments, LaRon. Sarah, you have your hand up?
Accidentally, sorry.
Are there any other board members that would like to ask LaRon a question or have any comment? Right. LaRon, I just want to thank you for your comments, the messaging of less fear, overcoming the worry, the concern, the return to normalcy. I like that message. It's a positive message. Like I said earlier, we've got lots of stories of hope, of lots of stories that inspire hope, that inspire that return. But I think your message is actually one that inspires confidence. So that's that helps me feel good too. Melchiah, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to thank LaRon for sharing his experience, being part of a community that has been impacted so negatively by this virus, and then the struggle that many of us had with whether or not to take take the vaccine was really huge. But I want to thank him for making his decision public, and people like him who have chosen to do that. I also want to commend the medical community in Oakland County, the health department, honor community health, and the other medical professionals that have been making a tremendous effort of outreach towards the communities of color to help to overcome the reluctance to getting the vaccine. That means a lot, and I've had my second shot. I'm thankful when when it first started coming around because of the processing and everything involved. I wasn't very amenable to taking it, but I'm glad that I did. And even with the minor side effects that I experienced from it, I would do it all again, not just for my own personal safety, but for the safety of others. So thank you, LaRon, and thank you, OCHN. Our staff has been above and beyond when it comes to making sure that we can get shots in the arms of the people that we serve, people in the group homes in different places, and you've done an outstanding job, and I just want to thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Christine, you've got a further COVID vaccine update?
I do.
Before you move on, I see John Paul's towards his hand up. Sorry, Christine.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to just make comment about the COVID vaccine, and the story was inspiring. And again, I'm a member of a community that's been affected dramatically by COVID-19. I've lost several family members and friends to it. Initially, honestly, I was reluctant about the shot, but as I learned more via OCHN and the education they have provided, and watching the clinics and all of these things, I have since become an advocate for getting the shot, and have really attempted to spread the word amongst my family and friends, and get the information. I'm still waiting for my COVID shot, but I'm not a particular community as far as age or pre-existing conditions where I'm at risk, but I'm enjoying seeing everybody else getting theirs as we start to work towards getting some normalcy back to our lives. But I think the more that we can get the information out, and particular those of us from communities of color, the better, because you know, it is important. We do see it as a duty to our greater good, and to protect ourselves. And again, kudos to OCHN for all of the work that they're doing. I think now 3 vaccine clinics that we've had. Sounds like you guys are, you know, it's very emotional, I can imagine. And you're seeing people you haven't seen in a while, and just the emotions of coming in and, you know, hearing the stories of people that have gotten their shot, and it feels like, you know, weights are lifted off their shoulders and their back. And so for me, it's really inspiring, and I do want to give a lot of credit to this organization for helping change, you know, my mind originally, because like I said, being from a community of color, I was very reluctant about the vaccine, but early on, you know, getting educated and learning more and finding out more, and then turning that over to now being an advocate for people to do that. So, but thank you all for the work, and thank you to our speaker for his words and sharing his story. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Christine.
That's okay. I do want to apologize for keeping my camera off. I have found when I am presenting from home that I freeze when my camera's on. And so I'm going to opt to keep it off so I can get through the presentation. I was asked, or we were asked, to give the board an update on our clinic experiences. And so I hope I've answered the questions that were presented. If not, we can follow up at the end of this presentation. So next slide, Em. We are currently partnering with 2 organizations right now, the first being Honor Community Health. So we have been in partnership with them since early February. The second is new, and that's with CNS Healthcare and also Genoa Pharmacy. The partnership with CNS is very specific to a grant in which we offered a letter of support and helped draft the reason for the grant and to get the doses. So we are excited for both, and I will explain the goals and focus of each of those programs. So Honor, we sent out our first request for people to join a registration list. That was specific for people receiving public mental health services in that 1A, 1B category, direct care professionals, family members, and caregiver roles for adults, and then healthcare workers. CNS, as I said, that is grant specific. Originally, the grant was stated for 60 and older, people aged 60 and older. However, when we received the grant, or they received the grant, they did send notification that we could lower the age to 50. It focuses primarily on people receiving public mental health services, but it did include individuals in the Pontiac community specific. So logistical planning, as I mentioned, we sent our first request for people to register on February 9th. Our first clinic was February 19th. We had 3 days to plan it. And the second one was that Saturday on the 20th. To date, we have had 4 clinics where people have received their first dose. Second dose clinics are scheduled actually for this Friday and Saturday. We have clinics scheduled every Friday through May. A lot of the scheduling, though, depends on the supply of the vaccine. So Honor finds out most of the time on a Monday before a Friday clinic whether or not the doses will be available. So you really can't start the planning process prior to that. You don't want to get people's hopes up and then have to say it's canceled. We are getting better at moving fast and connecting with people and getting people scheduled. IT has been very helpful in that area. The first clinic we held with CNS and Genoa Pharmacy was this past Saturday. Very different process. We vaccinated about 150 people. They had come in, they watched some of the things that Honor was doing, and then we worked with them through their system. It went very smoothly, so we were all very excited about that. In both instances, we were giving people the Moderna vaccine. So the appointment process itself, we try to really be mindful of the integrity of the registration list. We send emails with an appointment link. We send reminder emails. We made a commitment very early on that understanding the barriers of the people we serve, some unique challenges, that if we see someone has not responded to our emails and they were on our regular registration list, we have a group of volunteers internally who then call and ask, did you get the email? Check your spam. Are you interested in getting the vaccine? We probably make, and it's increasing with Genoa now, but we probably make about 100 calls a week. That does not include the calls we field coming in. Once we have the list put together based on entrances, seat assignments, time, we send a final appointment notice to the people on our list. When I say about protecting the integrity of the list, we face many of the same challenges of our community partners. With our initial link, when we sent it out to our providers. And it then was passed on to some organizations, that gets passed on to families, and so on and so on. I think we're being patient and showing grace. People are very excited about getting the vaccine, but they're also very anxious. So anytime a link gets put out in the community, everybody wants to pass it to a friend or family member. So we're very mindful in monitoring the list in terms of where people are based on when they registered, and then keeping in contact with individuals just to let them know the process, where we stand, how we move forward, and then always being very responsive to questions that come into our agency. Our customer services team is prepared to answer many of the questions that members of the community or members of our network have. If they can't, they will pass that on to one of the members of the communications team. But we try to respond to people immediately, either via email or phone. So and it's very difficult for me not to get emotional when I talk about our volunteers, but they are just stellar. And I have said to my children, years from now when we talk back, what, things you remember. And I think the one thing that has always really just touched my heart is you put an email out and saying, we need people for 10 hours on a Saturday, and knowing they've already put a lot of hours in the week, they step forward with enthusiasm and kindness, and it reinstates your faith in humanity and just motivates you to do better. So they are awesome. We have about 30 something, what I call my core volunteers. I have several who are on standby. For each event, we usually have 12 to 15. And the positions they serve: screeners, greeters, they help with registration, admin support, really is making sure that Genoa or that Honor has all of the support they need, whether that would be copies or assisting people to their seats, anything that helps make the process work better. We have our nurses who have volunteered to help with the medical staff from both organizations in administering the vaccination. And then, of course, there are people that help plan the scheduling. It's pretty complex, learning to run a clinic and to make sure that it's put together in a way that people feel supported. We know they have to come back for second vaccination, so we are doing our best to make it a good experience. Our clinics are set up probably a lot different than what people would see on TV, keeping again in mind the population and people we serve. We have music playing. We do not have lines. I don't think anyone's ever stood in a line more than 5 minutes. We practice social distancing. We use separate entrances. And I think when people come into that building, they feel like they're very welcomed. And the atmosphere helps ease some of their fears and their anxieties. And all of that really only happens because of the manner in which our volunteers carry themselves and really understand that there are some anxieties for people. So I am very blessed and very fortunate to be surrounded by these people. So this number actually changed this morning, right, or today, right before I looked on the list. It's down a little bit. The lists are a little, and all of us, Honor, Genoa, I have a friend at CVS, we talk a lot about the accuracy of our lists. We really can never tell where we are or are not. One of the things that has happened because of the distribution of the vaccines is that people find themselves on 20 different lists. And most of the time when somebody receives a vaccine, they don't go back and remove themselves from those 20 different lists. And even when they do, it's hard to filter through because most times people put their name on the list 2 or 3 times. So we try to go through every couple days and remove the duplicates. The other thing about our list, which is not unlike everybody else and part of the challenge, is that not everybody on our list probably should be on our list. So we're very careful in matching names and coinciding that with our original data to make sure that the names of the individuals on the list are those to whom we have sent a link. And again, being patient and understanding that when somebody gets a link in their hands that says you can get a vaccine, their instincts are to share it with the people they love and care about. They don't always send the follow-up material or verbiage with the link. All they know is to pass it along and say, hey, I think you can get a vaccination here. So we are protecting the integrity. We are being mindful in those instances where we do have to talk to people about maybe not being able to include them in the clinic. We have that conversation with them about our network, about the people we serve, about why this particular vaccine clinic was put in place, and really just a reminder for everyone that we are a supplement to the community effort. We are not a main resource for vaccines. We don't work on the capacity of the health division or really have their expertise in public education. And not only that, our clinics are based on the availability of our partners to the vaccine. So we have to pivot a lot based on those factors. We have made contact with more than 1,000 people for actual appointments. Everybody on the list has been communicated with at least 2 or 3 times. Sometimes we end up in their spam, and they'll let me know if they haven't heard from me, and sometimes they'll go back and check their spam and they'll say, oh, I see you, but that's just because of the vast amount of emails. So the 1,000 contacts I mentioned are very specific to people being asked if they want to schedule an appointment. What we are finding, for example, if we're going to have a clinic where we're going to vaccinate 220 people, we will send out invitations to anywhere from 250 to 300, anticipating we usually hear back from about 150. That's when we start our calls, and then we usually find out within that number anywhere from 40 to 50 people have already been vaccinated and just not removed themselves from their list. So Nicole and I had just talked about making it a practice to send routine links and emails to people asking if they wanted to stay on the list or if they wanted to be removed. That will help us have a better understanding. We have vaccinated more than 1,000 individuals, including both the Genoa and the Honor clinics. This week is going to be our biggest week. I think we vaccinated 220 people this past Friday. We are doing second doses for Honor on Friday and Saturday. And then we have a clinic specific with Genoa because that was age related, and then also in regard to the Pontiac community. We sent out the link in the flyer yesterday, and we scheduled 320 appointments by this afternoon. So we're pretty excited about that. The Genoa vaccination clinic is going to take place at the RCC. The second dose clinics will take place at the Troy. We have tried to communicate with people again because we're not the pharmacies, and on that scale, what's a little challenging for us is that we can do a series of first vaccinations, but we have to stop, do all of the seconds before we can start back over in that cycle again. Just part of the process in terms of keeping track of our data and understanding where we need to be or where we can be in the future. Next slide, So my hope is that we will get through everyone on the list by June. IT has provided us with a number of resources to help us be more effective and more efficient. We're currently using Bookings, which is part of Teams. They're also today, we're just demonstrating a text feature for us, which will be very helpful. We do find with some of the data and specific to the Genoa and CNS clinics, we had our IT team pull data for us so that we could identify everybody in Oakland County who we serve that is over the age of 60 and then specific to the area of Pontiac. And oftentimes what we find is that these individuals don't have emails. It's one of the reasons we've been so committed to just picking up phones and making calls all day, because for most of us, when you go to register your name on a link, an email is a required feature. And in some instances, not having one could be a barrier right from the start. So most of the time we use mine, and that's okay. It's just a confirmation email. But having the text feature will benefit us. Things that we know that are going to impact the clinic's vaccination, the MD-HHS announcement, the expansion for criteria, I believe as of April 5th, everybody 16 and over will now be eligible for a vaccine. This is very significant to the people who we serve, who really at the time, the only opportunity, the only list they had to put their loved ones on was ours. And I know this was very, very frustrating for them. I know last week the president announced 100 million doses of Johnson & Johnson were being purchased. There are conversations about switching over to Johnson & Johnson in our community. The health division received, I think, 7,500 doses of Johnson & Johnson. So we need to implement an awareness and education program about Johnson & Johnson so people feel comfortable. The benefit in using it, and specifically with our network, is if you can vaccinate with just one, then you can move through that list a lot faster. And I think that's true for all of us, that we don't have to pause, reschedule second doses, because while you're rescheduling your second dose, those waiting for their first have to wait a little longer. So we did talk to Honor today. They have not fully decided if they're switching over to Johnson & Johnson. Dr. Hamadi is going to make that decision, but they have put together a number of videos that they're going to make available to us so that we can share them with people within our network and really the community in general. That is all I have. Are there any questions for me?
Valkaya, your hand's up.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Christine, for a very extensive report and a very heartwarming report. I was fortunate to be working on the clinic for CNS in Genoa. So when I heard today that we had 320 people, it took my breath away. But anyway, one of the questions that kept coming up with people that I was working with in the Pontiac area was the area of transportation, especially in the light of the comment that you made that the first dose is being done at the Resource and Crisis Center, but then the second dose will be in Troy. So are we accommodating people with transportation, or what is the plan?
I'm sorry about that, Malkaya. So the first, we actually have 3 clinics running this weekend. So the Friday and Saturday clinics at Troy, those are second doses for Honor. Both the first and second dose of the clinics for the Genoa at the RCC will be held at the RCC. And then I do know that Dr. Reed made an announcement, I think on Friday, so anyone who is receiving services from CNS, she is accommodating for making accommodations for transportation, but all doses associated with the initial clinics in the Pontiac community will remain at the RCC.
Right. But anyone that's not receiving services has to provide their own transportation. There's no accommodation.
No, we really did not have accommodations in the grant. And actually you bring that up. It's a good idea. Maybe if there are opportunities for that, I would really probably chat with Nicole about that, see if she had any ideas. The grant was specific for 500 doses of the vaccination. I will say people are finding ways to get there. When I say for me, I think the biggest barrier, and I'm really realizing it now, especially with this initiative is in Pontiac, is the communication barrier. Email is the communication tool of choice for most organizations, and the people whom we serve really need a phone call, and they like a phone call. And so we could email twice and not hear from them, but if somebody on our team calls and says, did you get the email? They will say sometimes, I did get the email, but they weren't sure how to register, or the process can be intimidating, or they didn't have an email. So a lot of personal commitment and involvement and one-on-one approach from everybody in our building is making a difference.
Thanks, Christine.
Yeah, Christine, I have found, at least where I'm working, that people watch their minutes on voice, but they don't watch they seem to have unlimited text messaging capability, much more so, and they're willing to go that route rather than email or even phone.
Yeah, that's true. So that Diana and Peter demonstrated a text app for my team today. And then, we do have people who don't have phones either. So we're just trying to do everything we can. One thing I noticed, and I've heard there was some difficult in outreach in the city of Pontiac, we really did not have that experience, and to something Dana has brought up several times about really connecting with our faith-based community. Number of people that called me in the last couple of days have said, I got a flyer from my pastor. I received information from my pastor. So I think what we're experiencing in this particular case and what we're witnessing is there's really strength when we all join together and make sure that every part of our community is engaged and not just one organization leading it, that if everybody's walking together, people will follow.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the briefing. And I'll say it again, Laurent, thank you. I know he's off the call now, but I just think having these stories that inspire, in this case, inspire confidence, and getting back to, and I'm glad I heard a new term tonight, return to normalcy versus the new normal. I hated that term, new normal, but normalcy seems closer to normal. So I appreciate hearing that. So thank you. Next item on the agenda is actually the introduction of Dr. Posio by our CEO, Dana Lazenby.
You all can hear me now, can you?
I'm going on mute just in case it's my system that's causing the noise. It's not me.
How about that?
That's better.
Great. Okay. So thank you so much, Christine. And I think if we were in person, face to face, we would all give you and the team at OCHN a standing ovation. One of the things I truly repeat often, but one of the reasons I love working and being a part of the OCHN family is the commitment of the staff and the willingness for people to step up on their days off, to drive their cars for PPE. It's just amazing. People are truly committed, and they step up and they show it through their actions. So we don't have to worry about our mission being accomplished. I think we live it and we show samples of it every single day. So that's amazing. And I want to thank Christine and her team and all of the OCHN staff that have stepped up and supported. We could not have done any of this without all of us working together. So the other thing I wanted to recognize before I go into my introduction is Judith Summers actually came up with the idea of stories that inspire hope and encouraged us to look at people or to find people that can share their experience about the vaccination process and their fears and some of the challenges they were having. And so Judy and I happened to have this conversation one afternoon. And as soon as I got off the phone, of course, Christine's like, that's an excellent idea. And immediately she finds somebody to present a story of inspiration and hope to talk about their experience with the COVID vaccine. So I think those stories and just those personal testimonies really do help people feel inspired and can relate. So my big announcement today, and I'm really excited to announce Dr. Posios. I'm so glad he reached out and introduced himself, because we forgot to tell him we were going to introduce him. We invited him, but we didn't tell him we were going to formally introduce him, but we're very excited to have him. And so in order for me to truly do him justice, I'm going to read a little bit of his bio. I am very impressed and excited to have him, not just for his credentials, which we need, but really for his record of commitment and care and really involvement and engaging. And I can't say this enough, just from the first conversation with him, the passion and the heart he has to work with individuals we serve, or I should say serve individuals we serve, is just stands out. So we immediately connected, almost like I knew this would be a perfect fit. So Dr. Posios is a physician who's board certified in forensic and general psychiatry. He received his undergraduate and medical degrees from Tufts University in Boston, and he completed his residency training in general psychiatry at the University of Michigan Health System in Ann Arbor. I know some of you will be very happy about that. Dr. Posios has also been trained in forensic psychiatry at University Hospitals Case Medical Center in Cleveland. He's treated children, adolescents, and adults in various settings, including the psychiatric emergency room and correctional facilities. Dr. Posios is a past president of the Michigan Psychiatric Society, and he currently represents MPS, which is Michigan Psychiatric Society, to the Assembly of the American Psychiatric Association, or APA. As an APA Spurlock Congressional Fellow, he was honored to work with the chair of the House of Representatives Committee on the Judiciary on the Mentally Ill Offender Treatment Act reauthorization and universal health care, among many other issues. Dr. Posios has a particular interest in mental health stigma reduction and has consulted with governmental agencies, media outlets, and nonprofit organizations on the impact of mental health and substance use. He has presented at numerous international conferences and published academic articles and book chapters on violence risk assessment, mental health and the media, mental illness stigma, and ethical issues related to public safety. He is also a freelance contributor to the New York Times, Wired, The Hollywood Reporter, and the Daily Beast, where he has written about mental health media representation, especially as it pertains to violence and stigma. So I think by his bio, you can obviously understand how excited we are to have him as a part of our leadership team. And really just immediately from day one, he's already come up with various ideas, and he's texting me about things we can do with the vaccine clinic. So we're very excited. Hopefully he can still stick his head out there and we can formally welcome him. Thank you. Still there, Dr. Posios?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for the warm welcome that I've received at OCHN and for the introduction tonight. I'm very excited to get started with OCHN. I've heard a lot of very motivating stories tonight about the work that everyone's doing together and coming together for vaccinations. And all kinds of things, making sure that we don't forget people with mental illnesses and our consumers in the midst of the pandemic, and making sure that folks at higher levels don't forget about us and those that we serve. So very, very much looking forward to working with the board and OCHN and trying to achieve positive results for the people that we serve. So thank you very much.
Thank you and welcome. Glad to have you on board, finally. Judy, your hand is up, please.
Great, I finally got my coordination more together. I was just curious, Doctor, your resume is outstanding. I love the Daily Beast. I'm glad to hear you're a participant. But I was wondering if you had had any experience with people with developmental disabilities and mental health issues?
I have. So after fellowship, I did most of my clinical work in corrections in the Michigan Department of Corrections, and have worked with folks with developmental disabilities in that context, as well as medical director of North Care Network, PIHP, up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So yeah, very happy to bring my experiences from those realms, the MDOC and the CMH up in the UP to Oakland County, and looking forward to learning more from the folks on this board about what we can do to better serve folks with DD as well as SMI. So thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from folks? All right, I guess Dana, any other words? All right, we'll move on to the next.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on. The next items on the agenda are reports. We'll start with my executive committee report. The executive committee met virtually on Wednesday, March 3rd at noon. It was attended by Vice Chair and Chair of the Policy Committee, Dr. Sarah Guadalupe, Secretary Adam Furman, and Chair of the Business Operations Committee, Eric Lindemeyer. It was also attended by our CEO, Dana Lazenby, our CEO, Nicole Lawson, and our Chief Legal Officer, Kalana Ali, along with Sheila Barrett, our Administrative Assistant. So the Executive Committee typically meets on the first Wednesday of each month, as we did this time. We met and discussed and set agendas for the March Committee of the Whole meeting, which has already happened, along with the regular board meeting, that's tonight's, and upcoming study sessions as well, including stories that inspire and the current COVID-19 and COVID vaccine situation. We also discussed the current status and timing related to the county commissioner's efforts to fill the board member vacancies and board orientation, which we continue to postpone, waiting on who may be our next new board member to replace Judy. As well, we discussed briefly the CEO evaluation process and the timing, and then last, the next Metro Region meeting. So, regarding the past Metro Region meeting that we had, that was on Thursday, February 18th. I know that 6 of us attended, which is a pretty good showing. I think we outnumbered the board numbers from both Detroit Metro, who were the sponsors, along with even Macomb County. So just for those that don't know, the Metro Region is part of the CMHA, so that's the Community Mental Health Association of Michigan. It's the association that represents the state's CMHs and PIHPs, which we are both, a CMH and a PIHP, along with service providers and advocacy groups. So CMHA's mission is to inform, educate, and advocate for mental health, emotional disturbance, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and substance use disorders by strengthening collaboration with persons served, community partners, and government. So it's not officially a lobbyist group. We are an active association of folks. As a region, we meet at least 3 times a year, usually in person, but this past year it's been virtual, along with 3 other times, which is typically at our conferences when we are not in a virtual kind of setting. So the Metro Region meeting was hosted by Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network. We were welcomed by their board chairs, outgoing chair Bernard Parker and incoming chair Chief William Riley. No, it's not the same Bill Riley that we knew, who was our CIO. As well, they also had their interim CEO, Eric Doe. So the meeting was well attended by all three organizations. Again, I said that we had our 6 board members. We also had numerous staff attending. So what we covered during that meeting, and it was 2.5 hours long, were the following items. Legislative update by Alan Bulger. He's the Associate Director of CMHA, or the old term was Maccabee, and I keep calling it that. As well, updates by the 3 CEOs. No, they don't sing, but they are 3 CEOs. So Dana first, then Dave Pentaki from Macomb, and as well a briefing from Eric Doe, their interim. And then there was discussion on changes in procedure codes, the various telehealth initiatives, and then COVID concerns and addressing the population needs. So our next Metro meeting will be hosted by us, by OCHN, and we're going to schedule that for late spring. I'm hopeful, but I'm not sure we will have it by then, but have enough vaccines administered where we might reach herd immunity. But perhaps we can meet then, but I'm not sure. But certainly, I'm guessing that there will be a fall conference up in Traverse City where we will be able to meet finally in person rather than virtually. So that concludes my committee report. Any questions? All right, thank you. The next report is by our Secretary, Adam Furman, on the Policy Management Committee. Adam, are you out there? You may be on mute.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I off mute?
We can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay. Hang on one second. Okay. The policy management portion of the committee of the whole occurred on March 8th, and there were 3 main initiatives that were put forth by Christina Nicholas as part of the annual report for the annual report for OCHN. The first was an access initiative. The second was a justice initiative, and the third was a substance use initiative. The access initiative goes hand in hand with our ongoing NCQA accreditation, and as part of that NCQA accreditation, there are 2 guideposts that are looked to be achieved. And the first guidepost is to have a wait time of under 30 seconds at the access center in terms of people calling in. And the second guidepost is to have a call abandonment rate of less than 5%, and Christina has said that we're well within the guidelines for making that occur, so that was good to hear. Secondly, in terms of the justice initiative, the MDOC, the Michigan Department of Corrections, has transitioned the SUD services to the PAHPs, and that occurred in April of 2020. Yes, this year of April 2020, effective April 1st. OCHN hired a liaison to work with the population that was previously served by the Michigan Department of Corrections, and the liaison has found that, let's see here, my document closed on me. Hang on one second. The liaison has found that the majority of the referrals are to outpatient SED services, and again, we really find this closer relationship with the population that was previously served by the MDOC has given us a opportunity for an even more well-rounded experience among people that we serve. And let's see. And this document keeps closing on me. I apologize. Hang on one second. Okay. And let's see. So the liaison works with the population that was previously served by the MDOC, and the liaison also works with the provider network to ensure a consistent process to handle referrals and support access to services. And I think that basically covers the second point. And like I mentioned, the third point that was covered by the cow in terms of policy was the new biopsychosocial assessment that was that was requested by the American Society of Addiction Medicine. And let's see. The American Society of Addiction Medicine Continuum was selected, and it's abbreviated the ASAM, and it was chosen as the state assessment tool to meet the requirements of the Medicaid 1115 waiver, and the impact and outcomes of that is statewide consistency in sharing of assessments among regions, and improved treatment outcomes, and that adoption of the new biopsychosocial assessment is effective October 1st of this year. Any questions on my report?
Thank you so much, Adam.
You're welcome.
Next up on the agenda is Eric Lindemeyer reporting on the business operations committee meeting.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm going to report on the committee of the whole. We met on the 8th, the same date that the report that Jonathan just made. And I'm going to discuss the fantastic work of Anya, our CFO. She made a presentation to the committee of the whole about our January 2021 financial trends with comparisons. And one of the important factors in looking at our financial positions and trends, it's very important for us to be able to have good financial oversight, because it allows for transparency, and it also allows us to look at what the trending issues are, so that we can make sure that that funds are available for this, the services for the people that we are supposed to serve. And one of the important things that I've noticed since I joined the board is understanding what our trends look like, what our history looks like, and then moving forward. It's very critical for us to be able to provide the kind of funding for the providers that they need, so that we can have stability in the system. And I think that Anya and her team does a fantastic job at that. OCHN, we reported comparative fiscal year 2020 totals, along with the first 4 months of fiscal year 2021. The totals for our fiscal year of 2020, we're going to continue to update as we complete our year-end process and we finalize this year's audit. There's a process of going through the financials and getting the audit done. And Anya continues to do a great job at reporting our financials as we go through that process. The board reviewed the previous monthly financial reports that were presented on February 8th, 2021 as well. There were 3 main points to glean from Anya's report. Anya had noted that revenue is up significantly from the prior year due to eligibility trends. The biggest increase was in Healthy Michigan, and that's it's important to understand that it's the highest eligibility that she has ever seen. And obviously, the Medicaid eligibility has increased with the pandemic. The second points were that our liabilities decreased and our net position is showing an increase, with assets that also show an increase. The results showing that our net position has improved. Revenue is up approximately $19 million from the previous year, while our funding from the state general fund and our funding from the county remains the same. The third point is that when we look at our expense comparison through January 31st of the current year versus last year, it shows a decrease in the administration due to a reorganization of the general ledger, and provider network expenses are also decreased due to the cost reimbursement models. However, it's important, and Anya made this point, is that she anticipates an increase actually moving forward as providers move off of cost reimbursement back to the payment model. I don't know what our anticipated timing of when we would make that move would be, but that's important to anticipate as we move forward. With that, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Next up on the agenda is a motion for a roll call vote to approve the consent agenda. So that's board approval. So that's the approval of prior meeting minutes, but also it's for the approval of the RRAC appointment of Nancy Richtich. There's a recommendation there for her reappointment to the RRAC. I know she was on it when I was on there. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
This is Steve. So move.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second?
Second, approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Adam. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's do a roll call vote.
Miss Bernard? I don't know if you're on mute.
I approve.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Furman?
Yes.
Dr. Guadalupe?
Yes.
Dr. Hans?
Yes.
Miss Namie Dyer? Dr. Taub?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemeyer?
Yes.
Miss Newman?
Yes.
Miss Root?
Yes.
Mr. Torres?
Yes.
Miss Summers?
Yes.
Mr. Landsman?
Yes. All right, so the vote passes, and welcome for a few more years, Nancy, to the RRAC. Next item on the agenda is other business. Dana, it's a topic that regarding OCHN advertising and commercials.
Yes. Thank you, Jonathan. Last time we met, we talked about our investment in the commercials, and we just wanted to show you those commercials. So hopefully our technology is cooperating and you will get an opportunity to see the two commercials. I've been hearing a lot of great feedback. And so in future meetings, Christine or I will be able to present some of the outcomes of sharing that information with the community. And we're hoping that it will improve the access to services. So hopefully we'll get, there we go.
If you're living with a mental illness, substance use disorder, or intellectual or developmental disabilities, Oakland Community Health Network is here for you. Call 248-464-6363 or visit us online today. Life can be challenging. That's why Oakland Community Health Network is here for you. If you are experiencing anxiety, depression, or other mental health challenges, working through a substance use disorder, living with an intellectual or developmental disability, you don't have to face those challenges alone. Call 248-464-6363 or visit Oakland Community Health Network at oaklandchn.org for information about support and public mental health programs. Hope starts here.
So that's it. Hopefully we can get some feedback from you all. And then also if there are any questions or concerns about the commercials we have, we're looking forward to seeing numbers increase in terms of people reaching out and requesting services. So that's all I have for that item. Thank you.
That is really cool. Do we have any idea when those might air and on what channels?
They've already started airing on 4 and I believe 7. Christine will correct me if I'm wrong. And I know they're on a couple of cable stations.
All right, thank you. Malkaya, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. I was just wondering, I don't know if you have the answer or Christine can give the answer, but will the commercials be posted on our website as well for people to be able to go directly to the website and view?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Those are pretty cool. I like the leaves growing. That's pretty, I always wondered how one can make a static logo have life. So that's pretty cool. Are there any other topics under other business? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into committee reports. So item 6A would be well, there is no substance use, so we'll move to Recipient Rights Advisory Committee with John Paul Torres.
Thank you. Let me grab my sheet here. Hold on. Actually, could you come right back to me? I got to find my report. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Melchiah, are you ready?
I am not. I do not have my report tonight. I apologize for that, but I will give 2 reports next month. Thank you.
All right. I look forward to those reports. Thank you. John Paul, whenever you are ready.
Okay, I am ready.
Thank you.
So we had our Recipients Rights Committee meeting on March 4th. Meeting began at 4:03. Vicki Suter, our Rights Director, provided updates on supported decision-making training stories, the supported decision-making stories that are going very well. The February topic was Powers of Attorney with Lisa Lampagne from ARC of Oakland as the speaker. Between the afternoon evening session and the day's session, there were about 95 participants in total. The Oakland, we got an update on the vaccine clinics with OCHN. OCHN at that point had offered 3 days of COVID vaccine clinics with our community partner, Honor Healthcare. These are targeted individuals who are being served as caregivers, and the total vaccine was 600 at that point. Amy Kolpatz has won the ARC of Oakland Sheldon Dunn Award. She will also be presented with Vicki at the Abilities Awareness event. Let's see. Dana Lazenby, our OCHN Executive Director, appeared at our meeting and was excited about the vaccination progress that has been occurring with OCHN. Giving kudos to our staff who are coordinated and volunteered. It's really been a team effort, she stated, and it's we all agree great to be part of this organization and the work that they're doing on the COVID vaccine. They are also continuing to provide PPE out in the community and to specialized residential sites. Jean Pathfinder gave an update supported on the supported decision-making processes with the Office of Recipients' Rights staff participating in several of these trainings and receiving credits for them. The verifications project with the Office of Recipients' Rights staff met with the IT to map out verifications process that will take labor-intensive and paper-orientated process into an electronic format in these COVID days. Educate the Committee on Recipients' Rights System was talked about. So Vicki indicated that communications team with Christine Burke has been invited to join us to talk about brainstorming what we do to educate the community about recipients' rights. Some of the ideas members came up with, things that we could do, develop a recipients' rights magnet with a positive statement about rights on it, have a rights table at live community OCHN events once that begins reoccurring, reaching out to friendship circles and providing information to them, and also the suggestion of informing businesses that they might want to consider employing people with disabilities, which was a topic we had actually talked about earlier in our meeting today. Providing suggested brochures to community recreation centers and staff centers, and sending cards to elected officials as well. We talked about guardian training on rights. They're working with OCHN's technology department on a list of comprehensive guardians. Due to the number of individuals, it has been decided that we're going to mail about 200 per month with a letter inviting them to participate in new rights trainings. And then last, sorry, my report here. We looked at policy reviews. So Vicki and Jean provided overviews of the following policies, and we took comments and edits as well, looking at services suited to condition, residents, property and funds, and rights of individuals in the community setting. This is my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report, John Paul. Next up on the agenda is the director's report from our CEO, Dana Lazenby.
Good evening again. Hopefully you all can hear me. I've been having some technical issues, but I just wanted to give a report that really touches on a couple of things. And so just bear with me. Oakland Community Health Network has been recording its meetings and posting its board meeting minutes for several years. This decision was put in place to ensure that the individuals we serve receive this important information, but also have access to the meetings when they often face barriers. And I think somebody mentioned them earlier in terms of transportation. So this also has proven very valuable as we look at our response during the pandemic. And it has allowed people to continue to be engaged and to participate in those critical meetings and events. So I'm proud that we're able to do that. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was my hope that people really take advantage of those opportunities. I know we're all somewhat eager to return to normalcy, especially as we look at our April and March board meetings. I want you to particularly pay attention to the things that we've done in response to COVID. So at our next committee of the whole, Dr. Nicole Lawson and I will present a report, and it's really a year in review of how OCHN has responded to the COVID pandemic. It really highlights the extraordinary efforts we have made to save lives as well as preserve the future of the public mental health system. So that system is often challenged, but we also want to make sure that people understand the value of the public health system and distinguishing the characteristics from commercial or private health plans. And so part of that conversation really is, and we have proven ourselves over the last year, that while many people were forced to retreat and do a lot of things through telehealth, which I don't knock it off, I think it's a wonderful tool. I think that we had to do so because we needed to keep people safe. But there are healthcare heroes in public mental health system. Many of our providers and our team at OCHN never stop providing face-to-face services. So I must stress that. And even as we saw and heard from our vocational provider today, New Horizons, and other people who offer stories that inspire help, we know that we have not stopped reaching out and providing services to people. It's been more critical now as we try to get through this year and go forward. And as LaRon said, and others have said earlier, have a new form of normacy, or get back to some normacy. And so I have to applaud our direct care support professionals, the criminal justice liaisons, crisis service specialists, clinical diagnosticians, and our substance use experts, who are OCHN's forward-facing healthcare professionals who remained at their community posts throughout the entire pandemic. So in doing so, not only did they help save lives, they also ensured that the public mental health system would be there to support people in the future post-pandemic. So as we get directives from the state to reconvene more face-to-face services, we want to continue to reach those who don't often want to come into the office. But we do want to encourage people when it's safe to return to those face-to-face services that we know are so vital. But we will continue to support our provider network by making sure that we are allowing for services to continue in the way that best serves the individuals that are receiving services. So additionally, I wanted to talk about our meetings with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, particularly our meeting that we were having with our new director, Elizabeth Hertel at MDHHS. One of the things that's critical for our leadership team is to make sure that we are aligning our priorities with those of the state. And in order to do that, we really look at what they are identifying as things that we must do, we're required to do, but what's the best practice and what's the best way for us to do that? So some of the priorities that are noted And I'm really proud to say that our organization is already in line and maybe in some instances ahead of some of the priorities that have been set forth. But one of the things that she talked a lot about was integrated care and improving the integrated care services for children. And so I'm proud to say we have a provider network that supports children. And we also have taken initiatives to ensure that we're providing integrated care. So we are one of many, I should say one of few regions that has been selected to participate in behavioral health homes, and as well as we have 2 CCBHCs, which are certified community behavioral health clinics through our provider network. And we also are looking at and are part of the MyCal, which is the Michigan crisis line for the state of Michigan. And it will be open across the state, but the first pilots and projects are with us. And I think it's not north here, but the region up north. So we're proud of our ability to do some of the things that are already the priorities, but also they have been priorities of OCHN for a very long time. And I think it's because we have a board that's committed to making sure the services are the best services across the state. So the other thing I want to say, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, is talking about community re-engagement. And we know that people can re-engage in supported employment opportunities and work groups and a variety of community-focused activities that enrich their lives. So the sooner we can get out and, as I've heard earlier, get folks vaccinated and support people in that process, I think we can return to some of the services and supports that people were able to benefit from. And I think that's really critical that we continue to offer as many vaccination clinics as possible. And we need to offer them in areas and partner with people in areas so that we can have access to those vaccinations. So we're continuing to work with the Oakland County Health Department, the core providers and our SUD providers, and as well as the faith-based community, as Christine spoke of earlier. Those are some very critical partnerships that we are looking at enhancing. And we have those partnerships now, but everybody is really busy, as you can imagine, trying to serve their constituents and the stakeholders as best they can. But what we've learned over the last year, but even over the last month, as we support the vaccine clinics, is that we work better when we work together. And so we understand the needs of people, and we can support people through our services when they come for vaccination. So I know the transportation issue is a huge one, and that's something that we're committed to focusing on and trying to find solutions so that people have access to services, but also access to the vaccine clinics when they're available in their areas. So the public mental health system is frequently seen as the safety net, I should say, for the most vulnerable citizens. So we open our doors in situations where other people have closed their doors. So we're thinking about how much we need to be there for people we serve, because many times we're their last hope. So we will continue to be progressive as I continue to build the team. We want to make sure that we have members of the team who can really be, and continue to be, I should say, very committed and passionate about the work we do. So one of the other initiatives, and I know this is not one of the required reporting features, but I did want to be transparent and accountable to my board of directors. And that is, we have selected a vendor to help us with a compensation study. And one of the reasons we did that is because we see a need in the workforce. When you talk to other regions and other providers across the state, they are missing very valuable members of their workforce. So also in a response to our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and our staff surveys, we felt it very important that we do a compensation study and have a compensation plan that is truly realistically designed to retain and recruit talent. So that's a struggle that systems are having across the state. And a lot of people are losing good talent to telehealth services. So clinicians are choosing to work in other states from Michigan, and we're losing their ability to work with our organization. So we wanted to do this study so that we could have a fair compensation package and plan for the talent that we're trying to recruit. So we'll give more information on that initiative. I believe when Anya presents her next budget adjustment or budget review, but I did want to mention that before it came before you in a formal financial report. The other things I wanted to talk about have to do with really looking back at the people we served during the last 12 months. And I do want to express my sincere gratitude to our board because you empowered us and trusted the staff to react and respond quickly to ever-changing challenges faced by this organization in the past year. So I also wanted to recognize our provider network for their partnership and their ability to pivot very quickly when necessary and to continue to receive services that are critical to the people in Oakland County. We accomplished so much working together, and you'll see that in a report that I said Nicole and I will present, Dr. Lawson and I will present next month during the CAL. And it is really important to look back at a year, and although we had a lot of hardships and challenges, we continue to serve people, and we also are committed to this system. So again, we want to demonstrate the importance of protecting a community-based, community-connected public mental health system. So when you see that report, you'll see the works. And so that's one of the things that I want to make sure that we continue to do is really give reports that demonstrate not only do we have a sound strategic plan, we have committed people working for the organization, we also are producing outcomes. And I think that's one of the things that we need to demonstrate ongoing, as we know that there are still threats out there to the public mental health system. But as we stay together and really support what we're doing and show outcomes, the positive outcomes, we can really show how we're having a positive, sustainable impact on the people and the lives of the people we serve. So that's my report. I do have data that's included, but I do want to give it rightful time and place. And so Dr. Lawson and I will present that data on the COVID report at the next CAL. So that's all I have for this evening. Thank you, and I'm open to questions.
Any questions for our CEO? Dana, I'm hoping that as we look at outcomes, we also start baking another perspective, which is also the consequences of things being cut. Yes. So that's the concept of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I know that the Meridians of the world use that along with dollars, which we don't have the dollars to give out, but they use that along with dollars to increase their per member per month fees that they receive by saying, well, if you don't pay us, we can't do these things. And then people get sick and they end up in hospitals, and the cost of them not having these quote unquote coverages is significantly, the hospitalization is much more than the preventative care. So we have to look at that.
Yeah. And we have models. We can demonstrate the outcomes when we present our models of care and what we know to be best practices, as well as continuum of care, so that we never have a gap in what we do. Those are the investments we make in the people we serve. And you see the decrease in hospitalizations and the increase in engagement. So when people can participate in the development and design of their service, you can see a much better outcome. So that's the best investment. I can say, people can put in the dollars, but you have to put it in the right direction. And so you really have to look at services on a continuum so that people are never left in a gap wondering what the next steps are.
Right. And if they think we're doing a good job, then they start to forget. But if they know that if they cut things will get worse, they have to know how. So anyhow, there's also a comment here from Christina.
Thank you. Thanks for presenting your report, Dana. I just have a question, and I think I might know the answer, but I want to clarify. So on page 4 of the report, there's some graphics there, and in the middle, it says total persons received vaccine. And then there's like 4 areas where it says persons with, and then I can't see the rest of it. So is that just broken down into persons with 1 dose and then persons with 2 doses, or is it something else?
Well, you're correct. It's persons served with SMI, IDD, and SUD. So it's a breakdown in the population. I do apologize. I just noticed that you can't see that, and neither can I on my written document. So I will make sure that we get those numbers to you so that you can actually see them. But if you look at the MI and we wanted to break it down by people served and their disability, what they call disability designation. So if you look at the top list, it says a total persons that received their vaccine is 1,829. And then the 1,030 is the number of people with the second dose. So that's the difference between total number is 1,829. And so of those, 1,000 people have already received their second dose. So, but I will definitely get you the additional information about the populations and the different people we've served.
Yeah.
And, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just said yes, thank you.
You're welcome. One of the things that we didn't know is that, and I'm not sure, Christine probably did cover this, but the number of family members that brought people in to be vaccinated, that we also were able to actually offer a vaccination to them. And it was really like, you know, how you get the stickers say I voted. People were so excited. We should have been giving out stickers that said I was vaccinated, because it was really exciting. We were like a group of cheerleaders.
Any other comments or questions for Dana? All right, we'll move on to the next topic, which is public comment. Is there any further public comment? Christine, anything?
Christine, you might be on mute.
I was not on mute, but my little red button was beeping, so thank you. So Robin Trimper said in the chat as a public comment, I would like to state that I sincerely appreciate the support OCHN has given Freedom Work Opportunities, Inc. The cost reimbursements throughout this very difficult year have allowed us to sustain, and the advocacy to get individuals vaccinated has been very beneficial in getting our vocational program on a steady path to reopening. Thank you. We greatly appreciate all you do.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other comments? All right. Next on the agenda are board
If I
comments.
may say
Oh,
one
please
thing.
go ahead, Dana.
The other thing I forgot to mention earlier is that when we're meeting with the state, they were asking about ways that they can improve the dispensary of vaccines. And one of the things that we talked about is really advocating with people we serve, for people we serve, to stop the age barrier to the vaccination. So that was one of the things
But
that I
the print
believe.
version must be wrong.
I'm sorry, but that was one of the things I believe that Dr. Janae Caldoon is going to push forward very soon, is so that they take away the age barrier for people we serve, so that they can open up that door to receive vaccinations. Because right now we're still limited by those age categories. So that was one of the things, if you can help us to advocate, I really impress upon this board how critical it is that the people we serve have increased access to those vaccines.
All right, we'll see what we can do. Do the board members know how to go out to our association and either use their tool to email the various legislature, or to reach out and call and leave messages with DHHS?
We can provide that resource to make sure
That
that
would be
people know
great.
how to. Okay.
And also if we could put that on our website as well, because maybe we can get some more advocacy by the folks that seem to do advocacy very well, the people we serve. Let's try to get the word out. That would be awesome. All right. We have board comments next on the agenda. If we want to start with a roll call, and I have an announcement to make right after that.
Ms. Bernard.
I want to thank everybody for tonight and wish Judy good luck, and thank you for everything she's done. And it was great meeting our new physician. I particularly liked hearing Laurent's explanation on how he got the vaccine, and appreciated hearing from him and also from New Horizons. So I just want to thank everybody, and hope you have a good evening.
Thank you.
Mr. Furman.
Wonderful presentations tonight. And again, I'd just like to thank Judy for her years of service and her tireless advocacy. And I hope to be at 1/10 as effective an advocate as Judy has been and will continue to be. And I would count that as a great success. So once again, thank you very much for the presentations tonight. Everyone stay safe and see you next meeting.
Dr. Guadalupe.
I would like to echo my thanks to Judy. It's, I have not been here that long, but I have learned so much from you. And as we were going through the CEO search process, we were on the phone probably almost daily talking to each other. So I learned a lot from you. I will miss you. I wish we could be in person to send you off. But I just want to thank you for everything you've done for me, for the board, and the advocacy for the individuals that we serve. So I wish you all the best, and you will be missed. Thank you. Oh, and welcome to our new Chief Medical Officer. Thanks.
Dr. Hans.
Thank you for the great presentations, and I want to thank leadership, especially for the vaccine clinic. It's so important. I am amazed how successful it is in spite of all the barriers. I want to welcome Dr. Posios on board. Welcome. And last but not least, thank you to Judy, not only for her long service to this board, but prior to that, she did important advocacy for people with disability for many, many years. And she does it every day in every chance she gets. And I will especially miss her for all her help when I first came on board, and also for her mentoring. And I hope that she will continue to be a voice for people that we serve, because it is so important and it's so needed. Thank you, Judy, and good luck.
Dr. Tom.
I've got a couple of things. One, I had trouble signing in at the beginning of the meeting, so I missed when Judy got her award. But I want to just say that it's been a great honor to work with you all these years, Judy. I don't know that everybody on the board, since most people knows this, but when I was first on the board, after about 1.5 years, we had an election, and nobody really stood out. Nobody was really running for chairman of the board. And I actually am the one that talked Judy into running for it, and she's been our board chair that time for a long time, and then afterwards came back and did a wonderful job. Everybody knows what an advocate Judy is. When I was president of CMHA, Judy was always complaining to me that Maccabee, which is now CMHA, really didn't do enough for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So after she complained to me enough, I looked into it, and I found out that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities make up about 1/5 of our population of the people we support and serve, but half the money we spend is spent in that area. So I went back to Judy and I said, why are you complaining? Because half of our money goes in that area, and that only makes up 1/5 of the population. And she says, well, it's not the money, it's just that when people talk and make speeches and discuss things at meetings, they never say anything about people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So I said, well, when I give my opening speech at the next conference, I'm going to say something about it, but it's probably not going to do any good. So I actually wrote up a little speech, and those of you that don't know me don't know that I have a fear of public speaking. So that was a big thing for me to do. But I wrote the speech and I sent it to Judy and said, what do you think of it? And she said, yeah, it's good, and go ahead and do it, but it's probably not going to make any difference. So the next conference came up in a couple of months, and the opening of the conference, I gave the speech, and I said that, that we financially isn't the problem, but nobody ever gives lip service to this portion of the people that we support and serve. And everybody, it was almost a standing ovation when I got done. And I've seen a big difference in that aspect. I don't know if it made any concrete differences to services and supports, but don't think you can't complain about something and get something done. Now, the second thing I want to also, something that Dana said, how much our awesome staff and just took the challenge and didn't miss a beat and continued providing services and aggressively did it. And I didn't hear anybody say, we can't do this, there's too many things going on. They just said, how are we going to do this? And they did it. And I don't know how that we need to make MDHHS aware of the fact that we didn't miss a beat in doing this. And my hat's off to all the awesome staff. Everybody be safe.
Mr. Lindemeyer.
I just wanted to recognize Judy's 28 years and more of service to OCHN and the community. I feel like I got cheated. I only got one out of those 28 years, but I sure appreciate, Judy, everything that you've done for me and the advice that you've given me and help guide me and get me off to hopefully a good start as I serve on the board. I don't think it'll be 28 years like you did, but I think it's a lot of the service that you've provided and the influence and the effects on people's lives. That we all know that, and I guess we get it. Sometimes the disappointing thing is knowing that, the millions of people that have traveled through Oakland County over those 28,000 years and people that just go on day to day about their lives. They don't know Judy. They only know the effects, or they don't even know the effects that she's had. They just know that their lives are better as a result. And it's too bad that people will never fully understand the kind of impact that Judy had over her lifetime of service to our community. But we all know how special she's been to this community. And I just have the highest regards for you, Judy, and hope, a healthy future for you and, just the best of things for you as you move forward to your next challenge. Thanks.
Miss Newman.
Thank you to the staff for an excellent meeting. And I've been trying to think of what I wanted to say about Judy. It is a little emotional for me, mainly because Judy was the one that nominated me to become chair, of which I was terrified to do. But coming from her, it gave me the courage to try, and I did my best in that capacity. I feel like a lot of good was accomplished in the short period of time that I was there. But I can honestly say that that Judy has been an inspiration to me in many ways, and that she is going to be greatly missed, and that's an understatement. And I wish her well. That's a hole. I can't even imagine how we're going to fill it because nobody has the anecdotal information or the history about the system that she has, and that's really the thing that I'm going to miss the most. Um, and if you don't know where we've been, you don't understand how we got to where we are, and in a lot of ways, it makes it difficult to know where we're going when we don't have a good, solid grasp on what got us to this point. So, Judy, you will be greatly missed. Thank you. One of the questions, I had a couple questions for my fellow board members. One of them is last year, Judy had asked me when she was still chair to have my team come and present to the board because last year we were honored and privileged to go to Hawaii and present at an international conference um, on mental health and disabilities conference that was fantastic. And we were supposed to present when we got back, but that's when COVID hit. So we never did do that presentation. And I don't know if there's any interest from the board in us doing it at this particular stage, but I thought I'd bring it up just to put it out there. Um, when we I, the program really, I owe the whole program to OCHN as well as CNS Healthcare because the grant that started the program in 2005 was administered through OCHN. It was only supposed to be a 1-year grant. When we took that job, we didn't even know if we'd have a job at the end of that first year. But Jeff was the CEO at the time. They they were impressed with the work we were doing, so they made sure that they extended the grant and then wrote a permanent budget for us within CNS. So we are a permanent service that CNS provides, and I can't even go on into all of what has happened to us since 2005 when we first got started. So if there's interest, I want to offer the services of my team. We do our presentations virtually now since it's not possible to do face to face. And if there's interest, please let me know. The next thing I wanted to ask my fellow board members, I do not report on the person serve committee that I helped to spearhead through the association. The reason I'm asking is because there's a great deal of interest around the state now about what's going on with that committee. I was asked by Sable, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Sable Valley CMH to come in and do a presentation to their board at their board meeting this coming Monday, which I'm going to do. And I thought about it. I said, well, I don't report to our board, nor is there any conversation about what I'm doing with this committee. If that's something of interest to you, then I'll make sure that I include that as part of what I do. The last comment I wanted to make is the fact that I was trained to be a trainer to do trainings around resilience and adverse childhood experiences. I know that at least 2 other staff from OCHN participated in that training. It was sponsored by the OU, Oakland University Early Childhood. Uh, I'm sorry, I can't remember the full name of the group, but they're the ones that have been doing the trainings in Pontiac around adverse childhood experiences. So they've been training trainers within Pontiac to greatly increase our numbers and our ability to do the training in the city of Pontiac. And I just want to acknowledge Lauren. I know for a fact Lauren Johnson took part in that training. I know someone else did. And please forgive me for not having her name. But I wanted to acknowledge that, thank the OU Peace Group for the work that they're doing around resilience. We have a call with Senator Bear this coming Wednesday to go and speak to her around the work that we're doing in Pontiac and with early childhood education. So with that, I conclude my remarks. Everyone have a safe and healthy rest of your month, and I'll see you, I guess, at the study session next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Melchiah.
Miss Root.
Thank you. To Judy, I just echo what Eric said. I feel extra cheated that I've only gotten to work with you for a handful of months, but I can see how great of an impact you've had for this community, and everyone is so grateful for that. And I'm just really inspired by all that you've done, so thank you for everything. And welcome to the new Chief Medical Officer. And then also, I want to say thank you to everyone for all of your hard work in this past year. Living with COVID, I know it hasn't been easy. It's personally affected a lot of us. So just thank you for staying strong and serving our community. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Christina.
Mr. Torres.
I just wanted to recognize Judy for all of her work that she's had with OCHN and community mental health over the 28 years. Wow, I didn't realize it was that long. And but I remember Judy when I first came onto the board in 2009, and meeting with her and Jeff in a room, them telling me, you know, the ins and outs of community mental health and feeling overwhelmed. But I remember her sharing the story of her daughter at that time, which really touched me. You know, being a father, that touches you, and so to hear the story again was really fulfilling. You know, touching, and you know, helps me recharge. You know, and think about the advocacy of a parent. I think any one of us as parents is, you know, we're going to advocate for our kid, no matter if they're 2, 20, or 40. You know, we're always going to fight for our kids and want the best for them. So I think you've done your daughter a huge honor in your service through this board and all of the work that you've done. I don't feel cheated because, you know, I got to serve with you years ago, and then gotten to serve with you with the past two, and you were board chair then, and when I came back this time, you were board chair again. So I hope you'll continue to be an advocate, and I know you will. You know, who knows? I left the board years ago and then came back, so maybe one day you'll decide to come back and be back with us again. So, you know, thank you for all of your work, and you know, enjoy yourself, and you know, continue that advocacy. Thank you.
Miss Summers.
Gee, I'm feeling very special. Thank you all for your comments. Advocacy is a calling. It's something that you do because you can't do anything else. Always keep that in mind and stay connected to the people we serve, and you will do great work. It's been a really great ride. I appreciate all the time and effort and camaraderie and collegiality, and stay well and keep the folks we serve in mind at all times. Thanks so much.
Mr. Landsman.
Thank you. So a few things. Judy, again, I said it earlier, but again, thank you so much. I know that we haven't heard from the county commissioners about filling your role, only because your shoes are going to be too large for any one person to fill. So I know they're struggling with trying to figure out who can replace you, and you're irreplaceable. That's the fact. It's not my opinion, it's the fact. So again, thank you. Welcome, Dr. Posio. Looking forward to that. We are going to continue to meet virtually until I hear something other than that. So in the upcoming meetings, it will be virtual until I assume we've hit herd immunity, or the state's or the county emergency orders have been canceled, just so people have a heads up, only because we're coming up to, this is March and we're coming into April. With Judy's spot still not filled, we are going to cancel next week, Thursday the 25th study session. The topic of the study session was to do orientation to the board, but with that person that's still open, we're holding off until they fill that spot so that we can train all of the newbies on our board and all of those that are still, you may have been here a year, but you're still light on your experience and you could use the mentoring. So, and I don't mean that maliciously, I mean that in the nicest of ways. We really need to energize and power up. So we are going to cancel this coming Thursdays. It's next week, Thursday's study session. And then lastly, about a week ago, maybe not, last week, Wednesday or Thursday, you received an email from Sheila because there was a question about what topics were on the board calendar and when were they, and could we add more topics? And I'll answer that backwards. Yes, we can always add more topics. And yes, we still have room on the calendar to add topics. But I would suggest that you look at that email from the 10th, and it's a PDF of the calendar. So it's got a number of topics that are on there. The ones that are highlighted are ones that had come at board suggestion, plus additional ones that are recurring or came out of board suggestion. So if there's additional topics, please feel free to forward them to myself or to Adam, our secretary. All right, or to Sheila or to Dana. And with that, if there's nothing else, no additional, oh, there is one more thing. I saw 2 notices on this. There was discussion earlier today about expanding the age of disabilities for the vaccine. And the alert that came out just a couple of days ago is that the vaccine has been extended to include Michiganders 16 and older who have disabilities. So the folks that we serve, not under the 16, but then they haven't approved the vaccine for anyone under 16 yet. But this is good news, and I'm hoping, and that begins starting April 5th, I believe. So, so if you've got teenagers or young adults, or even moderately aged adults that are under that 40, 50, 60, whatever the current area is, have them register, and hopefully they will get the vaccine from any number of the sources. All right. So again, thank you all. Judy, I'm going to miss you terribly. But thank you for all the service you've provided, all the guidance and mentoring you've provided me. And with that, I will bring this meeting to a close and adjournment. Good night, everyone.
Have a good night,
Good night and stay safe, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Stay
Good night,
safe.
everyone.
Good night.